Thank you, Mr Speaker. Excuse me. And I would like to contribute a little bit to this bill. And I thank the Minister for bringing this bill in. And as the Shadow Minister, the member for Flinders, has indicated, this has been a long overdue process. However, it was a process that when I had the privilege of being the Minister for Local Government before having to step down, I'm very passionate about local councils in particular, and at the last council elections it was a dog's breakfast, to be quite frank. And it was an embarrassment to me and specifically as a person who's been involved with local councils for over 20 years and then to be the minister twice and to see what the results of the last one, as the member Flinders has indicated. It was quite awkward when a lot of people didn't have enough council nominations and things like that. But so I asked the Office of Local Government to actually go out and do a public consultation. And the minister, the new minister, the Minister for Local Government, has now received all that, and he's brought some new bill back to come in for the consideration of this particular area here in this House. But during this consultation period, I understand it was 92 submissions were received directly, including submissions from 32 of the South Australia's 68 councils and a sector-wide submission from the Local Government Association. Now, for those that may not know outside, the Local Government Association are the key body for all councils across South Australia, and so these submissions were very well. A further 406 surveys were completed on the government website, and that contained 54,000 comments. The Local Government Association was also consulted on this through that process there in my time, and it continued in the new minister. But certainly the Local Government Association have lots of discussions there on the reforms. The LGA, as I said earlier, is principally supportive during my time of the proposals. And as the Minister has indicated in his second reading speech, and also the Shadow Minister, I think that's very, very important. The best idea of the whole thing after the last council elections was the issue where people were not Australian citizens, were actually having their voting papers, because it's a postal vote, were having their voting papers apparently or supposedly taken by somebody else and filled out. Now, this bill actually makes it quite happy that you have to be an Australian citizen, have to be on the House of Assembly roll. So therefore, that, as is indicated earlier on, the people who are voting in council elections are Australians. They're on the House of Assembly electoral roll, and that's the way it should be. And I'm congratulating the Minister for actually taking that on board, and also for the public on the consultation to actually bring that in. The amendment, as I understand it, also proposes in order to increase the integrity of the local government elections following feedback from that survey there. The proposed amendments are also intended to provide a greater assurance to our community that only those entitled to vote are the ones who are going to vote. The recent findings of the Court of Disputed Returns, and the Shadow Minister have indicated that, that was prolonged, and it was quite embarrassing that some people actually had to be removed from their positions as elected members. But there are also, during the last election, there were many candidates, including some mayors, that actually didn't fulfil the requirements that were required on the returns. And during that period of time, we had to put special legislation through to allow those people, instead of having another supplementary election, that's a cost factor to the smaller councils, particularly regional councils, up to $30,000. So we were able to actually keep those people involved in the system there. The bill, it needs to say that the councils themselves need to exercise their property franchise entitlement. This means to say that if somebody is on the House or Assembly electoral roll, they can also account that their businesses can nominate somebody. So the councils need to do that there. A new significant reform of the new system is the management of campaign donations returns, and this was also part of the discussions that were held with the Electoral Commissioner over the period of time. And I think it's very important that the general public themselves, when they have the opportunity to elect somebody, they should be aware of if there's any donations and things like that. And as the member for Flinders indicated, when he was a mayor, he would have welcomed some donations, but even when I was on council and ran for mayor twice, we didn't get donations in the regional areas. But however, this safeguards that opportunity there. The new system is both significantly simpler for candidates to manage and places much greater emphasis on the disclosure of gifts and donations. As I said, I think that the community themselves need to understand if there's somebody giving a donation to somebody, just in case there's a conflict of interest and things like that. The other thing is that the new opportunity is for candidates have to be, number of candidates per council area, or whether it's the wards or mayoral, the numbers have to be promoted there. And I understand from this bill here, requires councils to actually just put that number up there. But I, as the Shadow Minister has indicated, I would like to also see the names put up there as part of that. But I think that's something we can discuss during the committee process. The other thing is that this here also says that it requires councils to hold a public meeting to enable the candidates to speak to voters, make certain that the voters themselves have the opportunity. Now, I think that's great. We, as elected members in this House here, have the opportunity to talk to at public meetings, and I think it's very, very wise for the communities themselves to actually hear from the candidates, to understand and ask questions of those candidates, to be able to ensure that everybody is aware of what they are doing. If a council elects not to do it, then the council themselves, the principal member being the mayor, has to be that have to make a reason for it, and that reason why they're not going to hold that public meeting has to be very genuine. So again, we'll just watch that as it goes through the process. The other thing is that proposed is that voters are aware that if somebody standing for council has previously breached behavioural issues, too often. In some instances, we've had people that have run for election in councils. Some of their past history hasn't been aware of it, and when they get in, that bad behaviour could come into play in the new council. One of the things that, even when I was a councillor, when I was had the privilege of being the Minister for Local Government, and now, one of the things I do get very upset with and embarrassed with the behaviour of certain councillors and opportunities out there. These people, and the communities in particular, are there for the benefit of their community, and they should respect and behave in a very professional manner. Also, it requires as I say, the Electoral Commission to publish the numbers of nominations on the website there. It also requiring councils to make a small allowance available to council members through reimbursement for publication of material associated with community engagement activities. Whilst I do agree with that as a person, I think that we need to be able to put some guidelines on that one there, but also the fact is maybe we should have a limit on that there. Enabling a trial of pre-poll locations for voters to drop in and vote for a supplementary election held between 2026 and 2030 to establish whether the benefits of an additional voting method or warrant is broadly adoption. I think that's a good idea. Introducing standards for conduct for scrutineers and offences for those sort of people. I have, in my time as a councillor, as a mayor, never used scrutineers. I trusted the Electoral Commission people or the council staff at those occasions to be honest and transparent and true to what is being presented to them in the thing there. But at the same time, we have to have some guidelines and assurance that the scrutineers act in a proper manner, treat the Electoral Commission people, or whoever it may be counting the votes, in an honest way. And also understand the regulation of election advertising posters and court flutes in local government elections now provides for consistency with state and federal elections. Whilst I understand that if you haven't got your name out there in your community, then in actual fact you should not be running for that position. You're there to represent your community and things like that. And one of the things I find with my volunteers as a member of Parliament, the volunteers themselves hate putting up the court flutes and having to take them down. Plus, it's an eyesore. So again, I think that's a good move, but we'll see how that turns out. I also understand the legislation should support the unique characteristics of local elections, including the property franchise and the postal voting system, but should also provide local elections with the same level of assurance as state elections. Now, as the Shadow Minister has indicated, in South Australia, the councils here are formed because, and they are responsible, the state government is responsible for the behaviour of the councils across here. So again, I believe in that one there. The bill also includes a number of measures to improve the efficient delivery of local government elections, improve the integrity of council elections, which will be a benefit to the community. We've got to all remember, irrespective whether you're a state politician, a minister, or you're a federal minister or what, or a councillor or a mayor, you're there for the community that you represent. We here are here to do the best we can for our state and our communities in this state parliament. Councillors are there to understand and do the best they can for their community. They are community people. They are there basically as volunteers. And I know that there's a lot of mayors out there when I hear people say mayors shouldn't get involved with certain stuff and discussions, but local government in general is changing very, very quickly. So again, that's good. The real challenge is the context of council elections is the ability for voters to understand who is running for council. And this goes back to what I said a minute ago. The Electoral Commission will put up the numbers there for the council, each council and things like that. But I think it's very important for every community, specifically regional people, to understand who is running for council, because if there's nobody running, it may not be a vacancy there, and as the Shadow Minister's indicated, then you could do a bit of a lobbying and go and talk to somebody and say, by the way, because the last thing we want is to have a supplementary election in a council area, especially regional areas there. But again, I'll leave it there, Mr. Speaker. I believe that this bill is well and truly overdue. However, in my belief, it's gone through the right process. It has gone through the public consultation. The general public themselves had the opportunity to make comment on the survey, and I thank sincerely everybody that contributed to that survey. I thank sincerely all the councils that may have made submissions to that survey. And again, I pay tribute to the Minister for bringing it back here, and I'm looking forward to a speedy passage through here so that we can get this out of the way, so that when the council elections are in next year, 2026, when we do come back, or when whoever it may come back into the new parliament, it's a very short period of time. If this bill doesn't go through and it's in entirety, then it makes it a lot more difficult for the 2026 council election. So I commend the bill to the House.
The member for